because he is the most appropriate professor to deliberate on this topic. On behalf of IMU, I once again welcome him. On behalf of IMU, I once again welcome all the participants of today's program. To introduce Professor Hamidullah Marazi, he is from Kashmir. Currently, he is a distinguished visiting researcher in the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, International Islamic University, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. Indeed, Professor Hamidullah Marazi has numerous publications, and the list is very long. He has published several books, several articles, and presented several papers in international conferences, seminars, and workshops. He has held several administrative academic positions in the University of Kashmir and also the Central University of Kashmir. To mention a few, he was a director of International Center for Spiritual Studies. He was also Dean of School of Social Sciences. He was also Head Department of Religious Studies, Dean of Social Sciences, and the list is very long. In terms of his qualification, Professor Hamidullah Marazi holds his master's degree in Sunni theology as well as master's degree in philosophy, specializing in contemporary philosophy, Al-Ghazali, symbolic logic, and analytical philosophy. He received his PhD from the University of Kashmir in 1996, specializing in philosophy of Al-Ghazali and its impact on Western philosophers. Indeed, Professor Hamidullah Marazi is a contemporary Muslim philosopher that he has written a lot regarding contemporary Muslim and Islamic philosophy as well as comparative philosophy. With this brief introduction, I have the honor to invite Professor Hamidullah Marazi to speak on Islam and Muslims in Kashmir. فليتفضل Professor Hamidullah. Welcome.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Professor Osama Tamim, Professor Nusri, and many brothers and sisters online. Today I'll be just talking about Islam and Muslimism in Kashmir from various perspectives, historical as well as other aspects, and mostly my focus will be on the history of Islam in Kashmir and history of Muslims. And since I am a student of philosophy and Islamic thought and mysticism, Ilm al-Kalam, so my main focus will be on academic and intellectual aspects of the subject Muslims and Islam in Kashmir. So first of all, we know what is the etymology of the word Kashmir, so I will talk about that. Then I will just talk a little bit about the history of Kashmir and various phases of Islamic history in Kashmir. And then I will talk also about the great personalities who have contributed a great deal in order to spread Islam and Islamic, philosophy and religion in Kashmir, who came from different parts of the world, like Central Asia. And first person who came to Kashmir to spread Islam, propagate Islam, he was from Sham, whose name was Hami. And in this way, there are many contexts of Islam in Kashmir. And first of all, let me introduce this subject. Why we call it Kashmir? what is the reason of calling Kashmir as Kashmir, and what can be the etymology of the word. And I will also mention that Kashmir has been considered to be the paradise on earth. Agar firdos barroe zemi hast, hami hasto, hami asto, hami hast. If there's any paradise on earth, that's ours, that's ours, that's ours. It has been said by Jahangir when he entered into Kashmir. And then there are other such type of descriptions which have been made by people. And Kashmir is located in the northeast western Himalayas, and it is known for its strategic geography, cultural richness, and complex political history. The region has served as a confluence of Hindu, Buddhist, and Islamic civilizations. All the important civilizations of the world have just flourished in Kashmir, and it is a confluence in that sense. And even according to my research, not only Hindu and Buddhist civilization, but Kashmiris have also received the Zoroastrians, and you will find many names of Kashmiris or like the names of the Zoroastrians, like Rustum, like Jamshid, like Feroz. So this, and in the history, anonymous history of Sistan, it has been mentioned that during the time of Rustum, the boundaries of Kashmir were aligning with Persia. So such a great history, golden history Kashmir has, and it is being confluence of various civilization makes it a very important region. And the name Kashmir is believed to derive from the Sanskrit term Kashmira. Kalhana in Raj Tarangni traces the name to sage Kashafa. Kashafa Mira, the lake of Kashafa. Persian and Arabic chronicles also retained their Sanskrit roots in their texts. And the historians like Masudi and Firista, they have mentioned about Kashmir. And my teacher, Professor Muhammad Farooq Bukhari, he has written about Kashmir, and he has traced all those sources from the Arabic historiographical records. Kashmiris are an ethno-linguistic group primarily speaking the Kashmiri Koshur language. Koshur. And the language belongs to the Dardic subgroup of the Indo-Aryan family. The majority of Kashmiris are now Muslims, but historically they were including Hindus and Buddhists. Because as you know, Buddhism flourished in Kashmir for more than 600 years. And Hinduism was also very much there. And a lot of rulers, many rulers from Hindu dynasties have ruled Kashmir till it was the advent of Kashmir to Islam, the advent of Islam in Kashmir. Kashmir Valley is surrounded by the Pir, Panjal, and Zanskar ranges. It is fertile and lush. It supported ancient civilization and trade routes. So there are many trade routes of Kashmir, the route of Rishim. And for example, Kashmir has also other routes that's known as Mughal roads and other such type of routes. So in this way, it was well connected. If you go to Kashmir, and you can see there are areas like Zanskar and Ladakh, and where from people used to go to Central Asia. And the Sufis and the saints and the missionaries and the travelers, they used to come to Kashmir from those areas, from those routes. And Kashmir is also known for shawl making, saffron, and scholarship. So we have just combined these three things together. One is shawl making, then saffron, and scholarship. And this shawl industry was introduced into Kashmir by Sayyid Ali Hamadani. He was a great missionary from Iran and from Hamadan, and he brought this shawl industry to Kashmir. Although shawls were being, weaved before him even, but he gave a new impetus to that, especially the tooth shawl, which is just a very, very, delicate type of shawl, and then saffron. Kashmir has a very great quality of saffron that is, sometimes considered to be better than other, genres of saffron, and scholarship. And great scholars from Kashmir have emerged. Iqbal also belonged to Kashmir, Nehru also belonged to Kashmir, and the mother of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, she belonged to Kashmir. And almost very important persons of the world, they have roots in Kashmir in one way or the other. And early history is dominated by Hindu rulers and Brahminical traditions. Kalhana's Raj Tarangni, 12th century, details Hindu kings. The kings of Kashmir built temples and promoted Shaivism and Vaishnavism, as has been mentioned by Steen, who is the translator of Raj Tarangni. Buddhist influence in Kashmir. Buddhism flourished in Kashmir during Emperor Ashoka's reign, 3rd century BCE, because a major center for Mahayana was Kashmir. And interesting development took place there on the banks of Dal Lake. When this Buddhism was converted into two groups, that was Mahayana and Hinayana. And still there are some Burzahama tiles are very important, where the teachings of Buddhism are still inscribed. And people come there to just try to excavate the historical roots of Buddhism in Kashmir. Scholars like Nag Arjuna and Vaso Bandhu, they were associated with Kashmir. And these were great scholars of Indian logic and philosophy and mathematics. The University of Sharda Peeth, located in present day, Pakistan, administered Kashmir. It was an ancient center of learning. It attracted scholars from Central Asia, Tibet, and China. And it is for that reason said Kashmir was to Buddhism what Athens was to philosophy. So this is interesting. And unless and until we understand the background of Kashmir, we will not appreciate how Islam could just get its headway in Kashmir and how it was accommodated within that cultural and civilizational settings. And then we had great Sufis of Kashmir who have contributed a great deal to different subjects related to Islam and mysticism and Sufism and philosophy as well. And in the Hadith literature also, we had scholars like Yaqub Sarfi, who was the teacher of Sheikh Ahmad Sarandi. And Sheikh Ahmad Sarandi was the founder of Wahat Shuhud, great philosophy and great Sufi thought, which challenged the Wahat Wujud of Ibn Arabi. And political instability and foreign threats weakened Islamic Kashmir. Tatar threat during Raja Sahadev's rule led to change. This opened the way for Islam. So this is said by Lawrence, a Wali of Kashmir, that I have tried to rely on various sources on Kashmir from British sources and Indian sources and other Muslim sources, so that to make a holistic and impartial survey of this subject. And transition to Islam. Internal turmoil destabilized Hindu monarchy. Ranjan Shah, he was basically a Buddhist from Tibet, but he was converted to Hinduism, but he was not getting the respect and honor. Then he just once was sitting in his own palace, and he found a person who was prostrating on the ground. He said, "This man seems very saintly, but he is so simple." He invited him to his court, and then asked him, "What are you doing there?" He said, "I am a humble servant of God, and we are worshiping Allah," like this. He was so much impressed by the humility of this great man, whose name was Bulbul Shah, Sharfuddin Bulbul Shah. And he was also known as Bilal. He had a great love for Prophet. He was a saint from Turkestan, basically, and he was belonging to Sarwardi order of the Sufis. And at that time, this great ruler of Kashmir, Ranjana, he embraced Islam. Islam entered not by the sword, but by social and political necessity into Kashmir. And many people have said, as Raj Tarangini has mentioned this, Kashmir was always conquered by the spirituality, not by sword. And this was a very important point. And Iqbal says, "Magar us gar ka charag hai tu, jis gar ka mazak hai arifana." Oh, my son, Javed Iqbal, you are the apple of that house, whose temperament, taste was mystical and spiritual. So a lot of spiritual ambience you find in Kashmir. And Kashmir is considered to be the Pirwar, the valley of the saints. So many saints. And Sayyid Hamdani came with 700 Sadat. from Iran and Central Asia. And they were established at different parts of Kashmir. And they preached the teaching of Islam and Quran and Sunnah. They established their madrasas and their khanqahs. And then they were just teaching people not only religion, but also arts and crafts. Iqbal says, Afreed our mard Irani Sagir, Bahunar Haye Gharib Dil Pazir. That one man who came from Central Asia, Sayyidina Hamadani, who belonged to the descendants of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And he just created a new manner Iran in Kashmir by introducing new arts and crafts. And this shawl and this carpet industry is known as Kar Emiri. This is the work which has been brought to Kashmir by Mir Sayyid Hamdani. So the name has been given to this industry of shawl and carpet after this great man. So, and he says that that man was living on the bank of the river Jahlam, and he gave Kashmiris Dawad Ilmu Sannato Tahzibuddin. He gave to Kashmiris religion, industry, and culture. Everything was changed after his coming. Language was changed, genres were changed, and the new Arabic, writing forms were changed. Everything was brought to Kashmir, and a new manner Iran was just constructed and was built by his efforts. Arrival of Sufi missionaries, role of mystics like Bulbul Shah, 13th century, and other Sufis, peaceful, separate through compassion, preaching, and reform, because Islam believed in egalitarianism and equality of humans, and it did not believe in casteism or such type of distinctions on the basis of race and other such type of things. So people were attracted to the teachings of this great Sufi, whose name was Bulbul Shah Sharfuddin, and he made a convent, and then people used to come eat and dine together without any distinction of caste and creed, and a lot of people became Muslims. It is said that by his preaching, about 10,000 people embraced Islam in mass. And this was the first encounter of the people of Kashmir with Islam and with the mystical and spiritual ambience of Islam through Bulbul Shah. And peaceful separate through compassion, preaching, and reform took place in Kashmir. And Bulbul Shah, he was the pioneer. He came from Turkestan and influenced King Rinchana. Rinchana embraced Islam and became Sadruddin. The beginning of Islam as a major faith in Kashmir was, this happened like this through this encounter. And then one of the, as I mentioned already, Mir Sayyid Ali Hamadani, he arrived from Hamadan, Persia in 14th century. He separated Hanafi jurisprudence and Persian culture in Kashmir, although he himself was a Shafi. But he was so much tolerant. He said all the practices of the Kashmiris, whether they are following Hanafi school of thought or other schools of thought, I should not interfere with that. And he allowed them to go as they are going. But he preached the best aspect of Islam to the kings, especially Qutbuddin and other such type of rulers who were ruling at the time. And he, with a very great wisdom, he was the epitome of that teaching of the Quran, and with wisdom and great persistence, he just taught Islam. And he just gave a great gift to Kashmiris that is known as Auradi Fatiha. That is consisting of the litans and a little type of prayers taken from Quran and Sunnah, and which is being recited loudly which used to be recited loudly by the Kashmiris in the masjids, which is full of tawheed. And nowadays I am doing, I am making commentary on that, and I am myself getting astonished to see how a great gift of tawheed he has given to Kashmiris. And he brought 700 followers, including artisans and scholars, as I mentioned already. And some of the scholars were great muhaddisin and fuqaha and mufassirin of the Quran. And then they were given, different type of tasks at different parts of Kashmir. At different nooks and corner of Kashmir, he just established them. in order to take care of the religious and the worldly needs of the people. Not only religious, but also economic development took place there in Kashmir. And he taught Kashmiris how to live a peaceful life and how to live a dignified life and earn by your own hand. In his Zakhiratul Muluk, one of the very important books he has written, which is like the book of Ghazali, Nasihatul Muluk, because he was very much impressed by Imam Ghazali. Ghazali had written letters to the kings and the rulers of his times. In the same way, Sayyid Hamdani wrote letters to the kings and the rulers of his times and telling them how to establish Sharia and how to establish justice with all the people of your countries and your areas, and without discriminating because of this race, color, and religion when you are ruling your subjects. So this was a very important book. In that book, Sayyid Ali Hamdani has mentioned how important it is to earn from the lawful means. He said it is very important in Islam that you should earn your bread through the sweat of your forehead. You should not depend on anyone else for your economic, sustenance. Economy is one of the very important, I should say, elements of any civilization and culture. And he made Kashmiris artisans, and they became great people who were well versed in all these arts. And I have enumerated more than 100 professions were just introduced by Sayyid Hamdani in Kashmir. And you'll find there are the areas which are known as Mashali Mala, which are Nalbad Mala. So the names of the areas were given on the basis of the professions which were introduced there by Sayyid Hamdani and his colleagues who came from Central Asia and Iran. All the great arts and crafts from Iran and Central Asia were brought to Kashmir. And that created a new Iran, Manor Kashmir. Kashmir was considered to be the Manor Iran. Afrida Mard Iran is Sadir, Bahunar Haye Gharib o Dilpazir. Khitara Shah Darya Astin, Dad Ilmo Sanato Tahzibuddin, as Iqbal says. He says that he was Sayyidus Salah, Sadat, Salari Ajam, Daste O Mamare Takdire Umam. He was one of the architects of the fate of the nations, because he created a new era in Kashmir through these arts and crafts, because that was very important. These 700 people who came with Sayyid Hamdani, they were not only preachers, but they were also artisans, as I mentioned. But it was a strange type of economy. I call it spiritual economy. And Muslims used to do that. And in Indonesia and Malaysia, Islam was separate by the, these businessmen and by the people who were doing lot of business activities in these parts. And with their business, they were also there having their passion for preaching their religion. And they were saying that this is beneficial for the people, so that we should tell them about our religion. And their dealings were such, honest, that people were getting, attracted to them, and they were accepting their religion and their faith. So same was the case with Kashmir. And it is said, after coming of Sayyid Ali Hamadani, about 36,000 people embraced Islam in mass. And even the kings and others, they were so much impressed and by his spiritual as well as by his balanced teachings, and where there was no discrimination based on caste, creed, and other things. And he was just, preaching the gospel of truth of Islam, and which had attracted the whole world. And Kashmir was also attracted by this great teaching, because Kashmiris were already exposed all type of spiritual, teachings and doctrines. When they found Islam very congenial to that taste and temperament, they embraced Islam in mass without any coercion. Then his son, whose name was Sayyid Ali Hamadani, he came with 300, Sadat to Kashmir. And his father had told him that you have to go there and you have to complete my mission. And he established mosques, madrasas, and public welfare. Great people came from Iran, the best minds, they came to Kashmir, and they established the masjids and madrasas and public welfare, institutions in Kashmir, different parts of Kashmir. And you'll find the names of that, Bulbul Lankar, and such type of things we can find in Kashmir, helping initializing Islamic learning. And they initialized the learning of Islam, and they created the Khanqa. Khanqa was Khanqa. It means a university. And we have a great, Khanaqah Mualla in Kashmir. I have visited that. There used to be the cabins and the rooms where the students used to learn. About 1,500 people used to learn in that Khanaqah during day, and during night they would just worship Allah. Rohban, Bilal, Fursan, bin Nahar. Such type of picture was being created by this, I should say, chain of Khanqahs everywhere in Kashmir. There have been so many Khanqahs in all parts of Kashmir. And those were like the, I should say, universities or the hospices where people were being, taught the best art of life, spiritual aspects of life, and moral aspects, and then also professional life, how to lead a good and chaste professional life and earn by the lawful means. And then we have one great scholar and Sufi whose forefathers were Hindus from Kashtawar. He was from, Kashtawar. His father was from Kashtawar, that is Jammu area, and he became Muslim. He was the founder of Rishi movement, indigenous Sufi order, and he stressed simplicity, spirituality, and love for nature. One of the great souls. And I had the chance to work on his, interpretation of Mansur Halaj, how he has talked about Mansur Halaj. Being a student of philosophy and Sufism, I could not find any other person to interpret Halaj in such a way as has been done by Sheikh Nuruddin Nurani. His name was Sheikh Nuruddin, and he is known as Nundrish by the Hindus, and by the Muslims, he is known as, Sheikh Nuruddin Nurani. And his poetry is full of Quranic verses and hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ. And he has said that, Sari Trayat Rutmak Metsa Kartam Guzar. Oh God, I have left each and every one aside, and I have just sought pure pleasure. You make me, blessed. Such type of, couplets you find. And he says, Tasidas Doras Rahmat Jari. The time of the Prophet ﷺ was the great time of mercy, because there was all around mercy and benevolence, nothing else. And he says, Muhammad Sor Yar Barha Guzruk Tamanishan Dunikna. You should adopt the way of Prophet ﷺ and the four caliphs and his friends, and you will find all the problems can be solved by following them. And this is great, as it is Alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnati khulafai rashidin, as he is translating that verbatim in his Kashmiri language. And for that reason, as it was said about Masnavi Mullah Rumi, Hast Quran Dar Zabani Pehlevi, that his Masnavi is the Quran in the Persian language. So has been said about Sheikh Nuruddin's Kalam, that his poetry is the translation and interpretation of the Quran in Kashmir. And really, I have worked on him, and many people have worked on him, and we could find that he has preached Islam in a simple local language, because the people who had come from Central Asia and Iran, they were speaking, Persian and Arabic, and how to, involve the people and preach Islam in local language. That work was given to Sheikh Nuruddin by the son of Sayyid Ali Hamadani. Interesting episode has taken place. Sheikh Nuruddin really went to the son of Sayyid Ali Hamadani and told him and asked him that I want to become your disciple. And Sayyid Ali Hamadani said no. His son said, Sheikh Nuruddin Muhammad Hamdani said, no, I want to become your disciple because you are spiritually very much elevated. But Sheikh Nuruddin said, no, you are from the son of the Prophet, the law of the Prophet. And then finally he became his disciple, Sheikh Nuruddin Wali. And then he was given the task to preach that Islam in the language of Kashmiris through his poetry. And you will go to Sar Sharif, very famous place. That was also news long back during late 90s and 80s. And that's a great place where he is buried. And he was the person who created this Rishi movement. And he had a section for the women. They are known as Stratquar. The ladies were, they were learning Islam under his guidance. First, I should say, assemblage of the women who are taught religion by a great saint. And these ladies were so much versatile, and they were knowing religion in such a way. When Nuruddin and Mir Muhammad Hamdani had encountered, one of the ladies was just interpreting between that. so why you are not eating, meat? And he said that there are two reasons for that. It was interpreted by Muhaddad. She was one of the disciples, woman was disciples of Mir Muhammad Hamadani. He said that since my knowledge of Sharia is not that much, maybe sometimes I may mix halal with haram. Second is that we want to live an austere life. We believe in austerity, and we live a simple life because we are not for the pomp and show, and we don't want to live a life of luxury. We live a simple life, and such type of conversation was taking place between Mir Muhammad Hamdani and Sheikh Nuruddin Wali through the agency of a woman disciple, and they were elevated to that extent. And then he stressed, as I mentioned already, as simplicity, spirituality, and love for nature. And he says, "On posh one push." The forests will only last, the food will only last when there are forests. It's a great point. And he said that both in South, the justice is the first priority. Such great, aphorisms and such type of sayings and proverbs are very common in Kashmir about him, that he has just taught how to live a simple life and take care of the nature. And Kashmir is full of natural beauty, and these were the saints. They were always taking care of nature, and they were preaching this, gospel of truth to people of Kashmir. And he merged Islamic teachings with local ethos. So because تكلم الناس على قدر عقولهم, as has been said by the Ali Karam Waju, you should talk to the people according to the level of their understanding. So they were trying to just make people understand Islam in their local language. Because otherwise, Persian was not, people were not able to understand Persian. So in this way, the role of this great man, that is Sheikh Nuruddin Wali, it was very important after Sayyid Hamdani. Thousands of the people they embrace Islam, and there are some good encounters between the Kashmiri Brahmins and Nuruddin Wali, and how he convinced them. And I was astonished to see that great dialogue was taking place, especially between Laldet, who was one of the saintly lady of Kashmir. She was a Shawite, and how much respect she had for these Sufis of Islam who had come from Central Asia. And she had a good, interaction with the Samnani and others, and how she was feeling the presence of these great Sufis. And it is said that she was just moving around niggardly. But then when she came to know that Sayyid Ali Hamdani is coming, she said, Marad Ahmed, that man has come, now I have to just hide myself. And such type of spiritual exuberance was there in their way and their behavior. And people just became very fond of Islam, and they had a very great interaction and dialogue with the great Brahmins of the times, Pandits of the times. And most of the Brahmins, they embraced Islam by getting persuaded by this great saint of Kashmir. And there is much detail about that. Because of the paucity of time, I'm not able to relate all the details about that. Islamic notion and culture. Now, after this coming of these people to Kashmir and making it a great abode of Islamic teachings and Sharia, growth of khanqahs, madrasas, and mosques took place. And now, use of Persian was considered to be as the scholarly and court language. And Persian was full of Islamic teachings and poetry of, especially Persian poetry from Sheikh Sadi and Mullah Rumi and Sanai and Urfi and especially Hafiz Shirazi. That all poetry came to Kashmir through this Persian language, and it became the court language, and it became also the scholarly language. Most of the books were written in Persian and Arabic by these scholars who had come from different parts of Central Asia and Europe. Islam and social transformation. Islam abolished caste and emphasized equality. Brotherhood and collective identity reshaped Kashmiri society, and it influenced language, dress, and customs. Everything was influenced, and much work has been done on the subject. And then after that, what were the rulers of Kashmir? So the Shahmir dynasty, 1339 to 1561. First Muslim dynasty in Kashmir was Shahmir dynasty. Sultan Shamsuddin established Islamic rule. He promoted Islamic learning and administration. Sultan Zain al-Abidin, who is known as Badshah. So he is known as Akbar of Kashmir. for his tolerance. He was patron of arts, crafts, and religious dialogue, encouraged interfaith coexistence. And during his time, many things were started. And the first, I should say, the publications of the books and the introduction of a new paper. Kashmiris used to have their own paper those days. And Kashmir was extended to the boundaries of Afghanistan and Delhi. It was a complete, land and complete country and domain and region. And during this period, and before that, Lalta Aditya's time was also like that. Mughal rule, 1586 to 1752, Akbar annexed Kashmir to the Mughal Empire, and cultural integration with North India took place. Islamic architecture and administration flourished. And then Sufi orders in Kashmir, Suharwardi, Qadri, Naqshbandi orders took root, played role in spiritual guidance and social stability, built khanqahs and promoted zikr practices. And then shrines and religious architecture, notable sites, Jamia Masjid, Khanaqah Mullah. These are important, which were constructed during these rules, the Sultanate and the Mughal period. And these were magnificent buildings and magnificent places of worship and knowledge and education. Unique wooden architecture and Persian influences. Shrines became centers of community life, which was uncommon otherwise. Afghan and Sikh rule. And Kashmir has passed through different phases of history, and many, dynasties and people have ruled Kashmir. Durrani rule from 1747 1819 saw repression of Muslims. Sikh rule 1819 1846 imposed taxes and restrictions, and even on the air and on opening the windows there was tax. Mosques were closed sometimes, and there was some, azan was banned during Sikh rule, and a lot of oppression took place. And then there was Dogra rule and Gulab Singh, 1846, 1947. Treaty of Amritsar gave Kashmir to Gulab Singh. It was enacted between the rule of Gulab Singh and the Britishers. Heavy taxation and religious discrimination took place. Muslims politically and economically were marginalized, and Muslim resentment and early movements, and then there were some Islamic movements that took place. Some organizations, religious organizations like Anjuman Nusrat Islam, 1899, promoted education. And there was one man whose name was, Ghulam Rasul, Mir Wais Ghulam Rasul. He established a great institution known as Nusrat Islam on the pattern of Aligarh Muslim University. And he is considered to be the Sar Sayyid of Kashmir. Reform movements emerged to protect Muslim rights. Focus on Islamic identity and awareness was very much evident there. 1930 uprising and political mobilization, and there was some problem triggered by religious political grievances. July 13, Martyrs' Day, marked police firing on protesters during the time of this Dogra rule. Rise of Sheikhullah and Muslim Conference, this was something about political. Role of religious leaders, and we have some important religious leaders who were from Kashmir. One is Mullah Anwar Shaikh Kashmiri. He was from Deoband, and he was the great muhaddis. And he is considered to be one of the important muhaddiseen of Deoband school of thought. And he went from Lola to Deoband and studied there. Then he went to Dabel in Gujarat. And we have a great scholar and poet, Allama Iqbal. He saw Kashmir as a spiritually significant for Muslim revival. And then local ulama guided people during political and cultural upheavals. The religious leadership played a dual role, guardians of faith and conscience of the nation. So the leaders of Kashmir, especially the Muslim leaders, they were just trying to protect the Islamic identity of the Kashmiris, and they were preaching Islam and taking care of other needs of Muslim community. Rise of Islam-based political organizations were there. We had organizations like Jamaat Islami, then we have Tabligh Jamaat, and we have Ahl Hadith. These are various Islamic movements in Kashmir which were there. And Jamaat Islami laid emphasis on moral reform and education. Tabligh Jamaat encouraged personal piety and outreach. Ahl Hadith movement emphasized spiritual, purism. These movements reshaped public discourse and activism. Islam in Kashmir, Kashmiri identity. Islamic symbols and culture are embedded in Kashmiri identity. Poetry, slogans, and dress often carry Islamic undertones. Islam is not only a religion in Kashmir, it's a way of remembering oneself, as has been said by one scholar, Altaf Hussain. Impact on madrasa and Islamic education. A surge in private madrasa and Darul Ulooms post 1990. Classical Islamic curriculum, Dars-e-Nizami expanded. And that was there. And women Islamic awakening. Greater female engagement in religious studies and wheeling. Emergence of women-led Islamic NGOs and welfare trusts. Quran circles, then Dars and online Islamic education for women are widespread. Literature and Islamic thought, poets like Mahjur and Zinda Qaul blended faith with Kashmiri themes. Iqbal's lines, the Shaheen hai, tu Shaheen hai, Parivaz hai, Kaam tera, resonated with the youthful people. Modern writers address social political issues through an Islamic lens. Sectarian harmony and frictions, historical coexistence of Sufis, Sunnis, and Shias, rise of Salafi, Sufi debates post 1990s, ongoing calls for unity under Al-Qibla principle. Islamic relief and social work. Islamic charities provide zakat-based support to orphans, widows. Organizations offer disaster relief during floods, earthquakes. Faith-based initiatives empower marginalized communities. Islamic festivals and traditions, Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, and Mawlud, and Urs widely celebrated. Unique local practices. Kandur, Wan, and communal iftar and Khawaja Digar. These are some of the practices. Spiritual and social life coverage in these all programs is taking place. Language and Islamic terminology, Arabic and Persian words deeply embedded in Kashmir Kosher. And we find about 52% of Arabic and Persian words are being used in Kashmiri language. And it is written also in the Arabic and Persian script. Religious vocabulary, dua, sabr, raza, kismat, ibadah, and these are the common terms which are being used by the people. Urdu acts as a bridge language for religious scholarship. Urdu was the official language of Kashmir, and it has just combined Kashmir with the whole world in this way. And I am also vice president of Urdu Council, J&K Urdu Council, and we are just trying to promote Urdu because Urdu has included everything of Islam, about Sirah, about Tafsir, about Hadith. Most of the Islamic literature is found in Urdu, and almost all the Kashmiris are able to speak Persian, a little bit Persian, but mostly they are well versed in the Urdu language and Kashmiri language and English language as well. So, conclusion. The resilience of faith, Islam remains central to Kashmiri cultural and spiritual life. Despite historical and political challenges, faith endures. The Kashmiri Muslim identity is both spiritual and political, as has been mentioned by one scholar, whose name is Mr. Pare, and other scholars have also talked about it. In this way, if we say that in Kashmir we have all these aspects, and I tried to just give a synoptic view about Kashmir and Islam in Kashmir and Muslim in Kashmir, and all these subjects need a separate lectures. Even Kashmir needs one lecture, Muslims in Kashmir need one lecture, Islam in Kashmir and Sufism and spirituality in Kashmir, and then other aspects, cultural aspects of Kashmir and other aspects of Kashmir need a complete and separate lectures. And within 1 hour, this subject can't be exhausted. And there is much to be talked about Kashmir and this history, introduction of Islam, and the way of life of Muslims of Kashmir and Islam. And before Islam, how Kashmir was there and what was the relationship between the different people living in Kashmir, and especially the dialogue which was taking place there, and how Muslims and Hindus and especially Pandits, they were living together, and still they have good relations, mashallah. And in this way, there was a different way of life and behavior which was created by Islamic missionaries in Kashmir, and the Sufis, their role was very important. And there was a great, interaction among the Kashmiri rishis and Sufi Muslims. And then they were just interacting with each other and they were learning from each other. A great example of dialogue was created in Kashmir, and people were considered Kashmir as river, that is the Vale of the Saints, where interaction and exchange of ideas could take place, and many things emerged there because of this reason, and a new world of understanding was created in Kashmir. So in this way, the role of Islam in Kashmir was very important, and Islam has made its way among all other faiths which were existing before Islam, and how Islam interacted with those faiths and how it created niche for itself and remained a, I should say, enduring faith after coming of the saints from Central Asia and Iran to Kashmir, which have given a new shape and new direction to the religious aspects and dimensions of life of Kashmiris, and not only in terms of religion, spirituality, and ethics, but also in their economic life and in their social life. A lot of changes have taken place, and then Kashmir became an abode of peace and love, and people were always thinking that Kashmir is a place where we should learn how to live an amicable and peaceful life, and how we can have dialogue despite being, different in our faith and religion. And this was a center of pluralism and the best example of Islamic plural, I should say, behavior could be understood in Kashmir, and the great saints and philosophers and scientists and the muhaddisin and fuqaha of Kashmir, like we had Baba Dawood Khaki, and we have, Hazrat Hamza and others great scholars, and then Yaqub Sarfi. They have just also contributed a great deal to the subjects like tafsir, hadith, and fiqh. And in this way, all these subjects and disciplines were flourishing along with other subjects. And there we have produced great Sufi poets. They have just talked about great themes which were being discussed or which were being promoted at different parts of Islamic world, in Iran, in Central Asia. And their poetry was parallel to their poetry in many ways, and sometimes better than that. As in case of Ghani Kashmir, it was said that one poet from Iran came to learn only one word, which was used by Ghani Kashmir in Persian. That was, that he came to Kashmir in order to understand what is the meaning of that, word. And such was the relationship among the poets of Central Asia and Kashmir. And there was a interaction. They used to go and through different parts. The Mughal road was there, and there were other roads, and then the Silk route, and then they used to interact and go from one place to another place in order to learn and enrich their culture by amalgamating diverse views from different cultures and civilizations, and make Kashmir a unique place which had a great value during the medieval time and even ancient times. And for that reason, that Kashmir is being considered one of the important places of the world where many things have flourished, and in this conference of the cultures and civilizations. And Islam also made a unique contribution to Kashmir and gave it a new shape, gave it a new civilization, gave it a new culture. And we have just endured that. And we hope that, inshallah, in future also, this role which Kashmir has played in the throughout the annals of history, that will be played in the present times also, and a peaceful and a loving, environment will be created for the people of Indian subcontinent through the great passion and love and empathy of the Kashmiris, who have always helped people in different kind of circumstances, be it Iqbal or be it Nehru or be it other people who were originally from this great land of sands. Thank you very much. So in this way, if I have just tried to cover some of the important aspects of the subject, and there may be some questions, or there may be some interactions or comments from the different type of audiences, and different type of people who have their own ideas about Kashmir, or who want to know more about Kashmir. Because within this limited time, I could not do justice to the topic, because this is a very huge topic which needs more time. And inshallah, we can have some more sessions on this subject. And I would like that if there are some questions, or there are some queries, or there are some comments from the audience, I think that it would be most welcome. And I am very thankful to Professor Osama that he has allowed me. Thank you.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, Prof. Have you finished?
Well, yeah, I have complete, sir.
Okay. Can you just withdraw your slides, mashallah?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Professor Hamidullah Marazi, for your presentation. You have covered the history of Islam and Muslims in Kashmir, and the participants were able to get historical background of Kashmir. I'm sure there are questions from the participants who are in Zoom. And if you have any question to pose, may I invite you to directly ask him a question, or you can write your question in the chat box. Prof. Hamidullah Marazi, to help some of the audience, is it possible to briefly provide the contemporary scenario of Muslims in Kashmir, their educational, economic, and cultural dimensions?
You're right, sir. Thank you. Basically, in modern times, we have so many challenges so far as education is concerned and social life is concerned. Kashmiri Muslims, they have private school association. There are about 7,000 schools which are just providing the best quality education to the students in Kashmir. And some of the best schools are found in Kashmir, which are just imparting this education. And there are also lots of, madrasas and khanqa, as I mentioned already. For example, there are great darulooms belonging to the school of Deoband and Ahlul Hadith, and also our Barelvi brothers, and all have their own, institutions of education. And there are khanqas also, which are still very active. So in imparting the religious teaching and trying to teach people the basic ethical values of Islam and etiquette of life. And apart from that, the business and other activities are also taking place. For example, we have good shawl industry in Kashmir. Shawl is one of the stable, I should say, source of income for most families of Srinagar and other parts. And about 52,000 weavers of shawl, they go to, Calcutta, and thousands of them go to Delhi and other parts of India, and they just sell their shawls there. And that is one of the important source of income for the Kashmiris. And this shawl is being woven even by the women at their home. And we have some best shawls in Kashmir, as there's in the Tosa shawl. And this is very important. And secondly, we have agriculture in Kashmir also. Apple are being produced in Kashmir, and we have apricots, we have the cherry, and we have pear, and we have apple. Lots of categories of apple which are being sent to different parts of the of India, and it goes sometimes to outside country as well. And in this way, these are some of the stable agricultural and horticultural resources of livelihood of the Kashmiris. And many Kashmiris are now going out for jobs in different parts of the world, in Gulf and in the South Asia, and even Malaysia and Turkey and other parts of the world for job or work. And Europe also, many people have gone to diaspora is there. They have gone to different parts of the world for jobs and for searching for their livelihood, and they are making good income there, and as well as they are contributing also a great deal. Some good doctors of Kashmir are working in USA nowadays, and they have made their name. And some philanthropists like Nasti and Semi and others, they are very famous, and they are also contributing a great deal. And some of Kashmiri women, they had made their entry into the echelons of the power. And we had one Farah Pandit, who was a very important official in the administration of Obama. and she is basically from Sopore, Kashmir. And in the same way, there have been other people, men and women, who are contributing a great deal in different aspects of life, dimensions of life in different parts of the world. And in this way, these are some of the social realities of Kashmir. And women also are very much empowered in Kashmir in the sense that, as I mentioned, that during the time of Nuruddin, even there was a Stratocode. The women were just very much empowered religiously, and they could ask questions to the great Sufis and scholars like Mir Muhammad Hamadani. And they were associated with this Sufi hospice of Sheikh Nuruddin Wali. And they were contributing, and their dialogues are found in literature, how wise they were and how empowered and emancipated these women were. And in modern times also, women of Kashmir, they are also very well educated, and they are taking part in all aspects of life, religious, social, and even philanthropic. And we have many NGOs also working in Kashmir and coming from different parts whenever there's any problem. For example, when there was earthquake, 2005, and there is flood in 2014. A lot of NGOs came from different parts of the world, and local NGOs also. We have about 3,400 NGOs in Kashmir, which are working to mitigate the problems of people. And we have some women NGOs also, like Shama Foundation, Women Concern, and other organizations, and Cancer Foundation of India, and such type of Kashmir we have there. So in this way, this is something about the Kashmiri life, present day life. And apart from politics, if we can talk about these things, because my subject was Muslims and Islam in Kashmir, I'm not talking about politics this time. So in this way, we can see that there are a lot of aspects of life in Kashmir, which are worth appreciation, despite difficulties and challenges. Kashmiris are just trying to follow their religion, as well as they are trying to live a very dignified life. Although they have many challenges so far as education is concerned, economic life is concerned, but they are just resilient, and they are trying to just get their livelihood by lawful means, and they are just going to different parts of the world in order to earn their livelihood. So these were some of the aspects which I want to discuss and talk about.
Assalamu
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Alaikum salam.
Sir, you can please repeat who is the disciple of Ibn Arabi?
Yeah, what you said, please again.
No, who is the disciple of Ibn Arabi?
Okay. Yeah, basically, I had said that it was me, it was Yaqub Sarfi, who was the teacher of Sheikh Ahmad Sarhindi, who belonged to Sarhind of Punjab. And his teacher was one of the Kashmiri, muhaddiseen, traditionalist, who was a great scholar of hadith, whose name was Sheikh Yaqub Sarfi. And it was, it was Sheikh Ahmad Sarhindi who rebutted the philosophy of Wat al-Wujud of Ibn Arabi, and he provided an alternative to Wat al-Wujud by Wat al-Shuhud, unity of being and unity of perception. He said that everything is not God, and God is not everything. الرب حق والعبد حق يا ليت شعري من المقلب, as was said by Ibn Arabi. وجودك ذنب لا يقاس به ذنبا. Your existence is the sin, and we can't consider any other sin worse than this. And this was the saying of Ibn Arabi. But Sheikh Ahmad Sarandi rebutted and rejected that. He said, no, Al-Abdu Haqqun wa Rabbu Haqqun. And Allah is Allah, Abud is Abud. Servant is, and he says that we are not one with God. We are the admiration of the quality of God, which he puts on nothingness, and we become something. And he was influenced by Yaqub Sarfi, and Yaqub Sarfi himself was a Wat al-Wujud. He was student of Wat al-Wujud, but his student, that is Sheikh Ahmad Sarindi, he was the follower of Wat al-Shuhud, and he was the founder of Wat al-Shuhud, which is totally different from Wat al-Wujud, where he believes that we are Abd, and we are Zil, admiration. And we are the best station for a human being is to be the servant of God. He can't be like God. And he believed in this couplet, that is, fi kulli shay'in lahu ayatun tadallu ala annahu wahidun. In everything of this universe, there is a sign which indicates that Allah is one. But the saying of the Wat al-Wujudis was, fi kulli shay'in lahu ayatun فَدَلُّ عَلَىٰ أَنَّهُ عَيْنُهُ. Everything of this world is telling that he is he. So this was challenged by Sheikh Ahmad Sarindi, and he was the student of our, Sheikh known as Yaqub Sarfi. So in this way, it was a great, contribution of this Sheikh Yaqub Sarfi, who created such a scholar and such a great man like Sheikh Ahmad Sarindi, who wrote about 100 letters to the kings and to Jahangir. And he changed the Mughal policy of compromise. And then the new world was created through different Mughal rulers, and impact of Sheikh Ahmad Sarindi was great, and on him the impact of Yaqub Sarfi was great. However, Sheikh Ahmad Mir Salih Hamdani himself was follower of Watul Wujud, but his uncle Samnani, Alauddin Samnani, he was follower of Watul Shuhud. So this was an interesting scenario. People were just debating Watul Wujud and Watul Shuhud, and both people were existing together, but they had their own interpretation of both Watul Wujud and Watul Shuhud. But Ibn Arabi had influenced many scholars there, and especially Mir Muhammad Hamdani and Mir Salih Hamdani as well. But that philosophy was challenged by the student of Yaqub Sarfi, who belonged to Kashmir.
Shukran jazilan, sir, for your clarification. Thank you.
Welcome.
Prof, there is a question in the chat box, and I think this question is posed by one brother, Ki Lam Wong, I think.
Yeah.
I'm right. Is this difficult for a Muslim to live as a Muslim under the Indian rule in Kashmir?
Yes, sir. This is my question also, sir. Thanks.
It's a very difficult question, but no, let me tell you, Muslims have lived in all conditions. During the time of Noah, only few people were Muslims, but they were Muslims. So in all conditions, Islam has the resilience to live in all conditions. And when Islam came to India, Muinuddin Chasti, he was the only person who was a Muslim at that, and only few Muslims were there. So Islam will remain there. Al-Islamu ya'lu wa la yula alayh. So Islam will remain there, whatever the condition. And I do think that no, we are not allowed to be Muslims, and we are Muslims. We are doing all the things, alhamdulillah. Maybe politically there are divisions and there are differences of opinion, and that's everywhere. But so far as Islam is concerned, there is no bar, and we are going to prayers, we are going to Hajj, we are keeping fast, we are doing zakat, and all other Islamic activities we are doing, alhamdulillah. So I do think so that we can't live as Muslim, but no, okay, it's political conditions apart. So far as long as we ourselves are convinced about Islam, no one can stop a person to live as a Muslim anywhere in the world. And Muslims have been living in very challenging times everywhere, and Kashmir also is not any exception. And I feel that no, this is not the situation that we are, mashallah, living as Muslims, alhamdulillah, and we are following our all Islamic rights and our customs and our religious obligations, despite challenges everywhere, not only in one part of the world, but everywhere there are problems for Muslims. And because of, we also, if we follow Islam as da'is, because we have to be sympathetic towards all. And Islam is the religion which also caters the needs of all people of the world. And we have been created for the whole world. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nas. And we have to convey this message peacefully to the world. And inshallah, because Kashmiris were not Muslims when the Sufis came to Kashmir. They were influenced by the teachings of the Sufis, and peacefully they have just influenced Kashmiris. Our forefathers, they belonged to other religions, Buddhists and Hindus. But when they came to know about the egalitarian teachings and teachings which are very full of compassion and love and equality, they just were convinced. In modern times also, people are convinced about Islam. And basically, we are the da'is, and as da'is, we have to live, and there will be no problem for them. But we face difficulties even in Muslim countries. There are a lot of problems Muslims are facing. So other parts also, they have the problem, but challenges are there always. We can't deny the challenges, but we have to live within the challenge. And Islam is the only religion, as a student of comparative religion and philosophy, I could feel that Islam can live in a pluralistic society. And Muslims have always lived in such countries, whether it was Makkah and Medina, they were in minority, but they were just performing their duties, and they were influencing the majority people by their character, by their spirituality, by their spiritual ambience. And in this way, they influenced the local cultures and people around. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for your response.
Sir.
Dear participants on the Zoom, any question?
Sir, Salam alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
It's Matur Rahman from Bangladesh. Thanks a lot to for good information about Kashmir, and thanks a lot my professor, dear Professor Dr. Tamim Osama, and all are related to this program. Thank you so much. And my questions, we heard that in Kashmir, especially, there are spread of Sufism, but Sufi, as per Sufism is complete Islam. Any movement there, sir, like Bangladesh Jamaat Islami or Ikhwan al Muslimin, like this, who thinks that Islam is the complete code of life, like this, not terrorism, just Islam is a complete code of life, like this movement, any movement in Kashmir, according to your view.
You said that not only Sufism but other movements. What I could not understand what you want to say. Please, can you explain again? Yeah.
That is any group who believe that Islam should be established in society in all sides, complete code of as a complete code of life. We should try to establish Islam uh, in liberal way, not by terrorism.
Yeah, okay. Basically, I was just talking about the historical role
Yes,
of
sir.
Islam in Kashmir, so far as the scholars from Central Asia and Iran have preached Islam there in Kashmir.
Yes, sir.
And as a student of religions of the world and philosophy and Ghazali especially, I could feel that um, Islam is to be preached to the people in a way which they can understand and which they can they can work, they can apply that on their lives. And we
Yes, sir.
can't impose anything such thing on a community which is not able to implement anything which needs a rule or government. So how we can
Yes.
expect from the people who are not able to just establish Islamic rule anywhere, but the
Yeah.
people who have their countries and they have their own lands and they have freedom, when they are not doing this, how we can expect from a community which is in minority or majority, whatever it is, but they are not in power. So, but whatever is possible, people are trying to follow their Islam as much as is possible in these circumstances. So, but
Sir.
there have been people, they are just espousing such type of ideas everywhere in the world, and whether they are in minority or they are in majority. But so far as in Kashmir, mostly people are just interested in understanding Islam, basics of Islam, and they want to follow Islam as much as they can do. And they are very much loyal, and they are so lovers of the Prophet. A lot of love for Prophet is there. You can find that in Kashmir, and they are showing that at different parts and different places. But so far as other things are concerned, there are groups who are thinking like this. But basically, until and unless
Yes,
you
sir.
have you are able to follow all the tenets of Sharia, how you can
Sir.
expect from people who are not able to do that? So, but it does not mean that people don't follow Islam. They don't follow religion. They follow in their own capacity, whatever they can do. And
Yes, sir.
and we have still the Sufi fraternities are very active in Kashmir, and it has some Sufi ambience in Kashmir. But the Sufi influences which have come from different parts of the world, where these are sometimes contrasting with Islam. So there have been people who have been just not accepting these things, and they are trying to purify even Sufism, and they want Islamize Sufism sometimes, Islamize. And there are several elements. As a student of Sufism, I know, and as I mentioned about what wujud and what shuhud, and then there is like Mansur's philosophy, and then there is Jogiana philosophy and other type of things of Sufism. There are people in Kashmir and other parts of India and other parts of the world who are trying to purify even tasawwuf from all the elements which are un-Islamic or which have come from other sources rather than Quran and Sunnah. And
Yeah.
Sheikh Nuruddin Wali and Mirza Hamdani, they also believed in that. And nowadays we have such Islamic organizations who are trying to show actual Islamic teachings. And whatever is possible, they are trying to follow that and make people to also follow that, that way of life, and as much as they can. Thank
Sir,
you.
Thank
sir,
you. Thank you, Professor Muhammad Hamidullah. There is a question in the chat box, and the question is, Is there a danger of cultural homogenization in Kashmir? And how is that affecting the legacy of Kashmiri Muslims post abrogation of Article 370?
This is basically a political question, and I am not a politician. I am an academician and a student, I should say. And not even academician. I call myself as a student. So this is a political question, and most of the things you can know about these aspects from internet, and a lot of material is available on the net on the subject. And but I think that wherever we are, whatever the conditions, whatever the places, unless and until we ourselves are convinced about the genuineness and tenacity of Islam and its teachings, no one can impose anything else on you. That is very important. Otherwise, if we just use this scale, then what is happening in the West to the Muslims? But they are retaining their identity despite challenges. So it is our resolve should be there, our resilience should be there, that if we want to follow religion, no one can impose anything else on you. Alhamdulillah, Kashmiri Muslims also are following their religion, and they don't want to hurt others' feelings also. They believe in this, mutual respect of others also, because they have been doing it all along. And they were always living amicably with other communities of the world and other communities of the valley. And in this way, there is a good relationship. And sometimes, some challenges are there everywhere, not only in Kashmir, but other parts of the world as well. But we are trying to at least resolve and navigate with our brethren, because whosoever is living there, as a student of Islam and a student Dai of Islam, I believe that no one is our enemy. We have to preach this gospel of truth of Islam to all, because we have been created for the whole world, because of the misconceptions and sometimes some political, I should say, motivations. Some people are just doing some such type things which are not good for any community. But with the passage of time, people realize that every community has right of religious freedom, because even Indian Constitution has given freedom of religion. And the Article 14 and 25 and other articles of Indian Constitution has given rights to the people there, that they can maintain their cultural, identity and religious identity and personal laws. So in this way, despite the challenges, we are just trying to just follow our Islam as much as is possible, despite the challenges, as you said rightly. And there are other, not only in Kashmir, other parts of the world, even in the countries where Muslims are living, what type of the lifestyle they are showing to us, and what type of Islamization they have done in their own countries, which can become model for people who are living in countries where they are in minority. So this way, basically, we have to live Islam wherever we are, because Allah knows better where we have to live. Sometimes like Noah, and sometimes like Joseph, and sometimes like Moses, sometimes like Jesus, and all these models of life have been assembled in the life of the Prophet Sallallahu. Whatever the conditions, we have to perform our role as Da'i, as a Muslim, and as the witness, Shuhada al Nas. And that is our basic purpose. Then we can leave results to Allah, because by our saying or by our doing, nothing will happen unless and until Allah helps us. Ya Malik al-Mulk, tu'til mulk man tasha wa tanzil mulk man tasha. And when we become good, inshallah, our conscience will also become good. Basically, basic point is that let us be good Muslims, let us be pious Muslims, let us be sympathetic to all. And the people who don't know Islam, let us tell them what is Islam in such a dialogical way, in a very nice way, wisdom wise way, so that they get also influenced, because Islam is the most misunderstood religion in the world. As a student of comparative religions, I can feel it, that as other religions are appreciated, Islam is not, because we are not able to present our case before the world in a better way. And I say we have the best case, but our advocate is not the best. People have worst cases, but their advocates are the best. So, but we have been told, so our style should have been the best. People should have gotten attracted towards us. When they could get attracted to their Christian missionary schools, why they are not coming to our schools? Because our model should have been the best way of, although our stuff is the best, but our style is not the best. So we need to also change our thinking sometimes in whatever conditions we are. Our role is as a Dai, and not as, I should say, not someone as to judge people because they are doing this and they are doing that, but we have to just invite them, whatever is possible in our capacity, to invite to the best aspects of religion and follow also the best aspect of religion as much as we can.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Hamidullah. There is a question on the chat box. This is posted by Sharifa Nurul Huda. She says, Salam Prof. This Sayyid Ali Hamadani from Persia was or is he attached to any Sufi order?
Yeah, you're right. There are two, stories about that. He was basically belonging to Sarwardi order, but then he started a new order, Kubrawi order. That was Najmuddin Kubra. That is very close to the Sarwardi order of Sufis. And there's not much difference between these two, Sarwardi and Kubri order. He was a great Sufi. As I mentioned that he wrote two books on Wahdatul Wujud, in Persian and in Arabic as well. And he explained Wahdatul Wujud of Sheikh Ibn Arabi, and in such a way, no one else had done that. But his uncle, Alauddin Samnani, he was Wahdatul Shuhudi. So this was those days. Muslims used to have different type of schools of thought in Sufism even. As nowadays we have many schools of thought in Western philosophy. Those days Muslims were just leading in creating narratives for the world. One narrative was Wahdatul Wujud, and second was Wahdatul Shuhud, and then there was Tafwiz by Ibn Taymiyyah and others. So, and even Ibn Taymiyyah had written one complete volume on Tasawwuf, and he wrote also Awliya al-Rahman wa Awliya al-Shaitan, and he also wrote a commentary on Fathur Rabbani of Sheikh Ahmad Sarindi. So even the scholar of the stature of Ibn Taymiyyah had also to resort to Sufi terminology, and his student Ibn Qayyim, and that is Madarij al-Saliqeen and other books, and Zadul Ma'ad. So there was no way out those days except to dealing with tasawwuf, this art or that. And I feel as in Western world nowadays we have atheism, we have materialism, we have hedonism, we have pragmatism. So those days we had Wahdatul Wujud, Wahdatul Shuhud, because that was the criterion and that was the narrative of the times. And people used to align with this school or that school, but they used to have conversation, debate, discussion. Critically, they were engaged in that. And there was nothing wrong with that. And there was possibility of different narratives at one and the same time. And we find that, as Ibn Taymiyyah has rightly said, there are three types of Sufis. One is Aimatul Huda, who are the leaders of the guidance, and among them is Fuzail bin Ayaz and Sheikh Ahmad, this Jilani, Abdul Qadir Jilani, and Maruf Qarqi, and Shaqir Balqi, and Haris Mahasibi. And second group was between these, they were Sukri, they were people of Sukr, like we have Baiz Bistami and others. And third was totally, they were misguided, like Ibn Arabi and others. He has just condemned them. And in this way, people were aligning with this thought of Sufis or that thought. And Sayyid Hamdani was also aligned with Wahdatul Wujud and Sohrawardi and then Kubri order, which has one of the important recitation is known as Awradi Fatiha. And that is a great, source of prayers. And I am nowadays interpreting that every day in English and Urdu. And on Facebook, I am just also putting some posts and how he has explained the qualities of Allah. And in between, the Asharites and Mu'tazilites and Tafwiziyah. So such a great balanced approach towards this, how to, make awrad invocations to Allah. Every morning people used to do this, and I had taken that Awrad Fatiha with me to the Hajj and to Makkah and Medina, and that was representing me, everywhere, and whatever I wanted to ask to Allah, beg to Allah, that was through this, and that is a Sufi type of, but that is very much balanced. It is not having anything of the taint of any polytheism or heresy. So full of the prayers of the Prophet ﷺ, Masnoon prayers of the Prophet ﷺ, assembled at one place, and it is said that he took those all prayers from 800 Sufis and saints and the great scholars of the world and assembled them in one book and one treatise known as Awradi Fatiha. So he was a Sufi, but his Sufism was amalgamation of various good aspects of different narratives of the Sufis. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Hamidullah Marazi, for your excellent presentation in relation to Islam and Muslims in Kashmir. I'm sure that our audience have benefited. Of course, there is a request in the chat box that we should have more of such programs focusing on various aspects of Kashmir. Inshallah, IMU, International Institute for Muslim Unity, will try to organize some other programs focusing on other dimensions of Muslims in Kashmir, inshallah. So with this, on behalf of International Institute for Muslim Unity, I thank you, Professor Hamidullah Marazi, for your acceptance of our invitation, although it was in the last minute. I'm really thankful to you. And inshallah, we look forward to have more programs in the near future. And I also thank the audience in the Zoom and also my colleagues in my meeting room. They are all very enthusiastic to listen to more of such programs in the near future. So once again, I thank you, Professor Hamidullah Marazi, for your presentation. I also thank all the participants on Zoom and in the meeting room. With this, we end our discussion. And after ending our discussion, we can make a photograph of the audience for our record. So with this, thank you all very much. Wabillah tawfiq wal hidayah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.
So may I request the participants to open their camera so that we can have a photo of the session. Please.
Great people like Muhammad Ozai and others. Mashallah.
My office is taking a photo. Prof. Mehmet Oze, thank you for your presence, Prof. Mehmet.
Sorry, a bit late. I'm very sorry.
Alhamdulillah. I was expecting a question from you, but
Sorry, I was busy. So
I
sorry.
am going to join my
thank you, thank you, Prof.
You are our Sheikh, sir. You come.
Thank you, Mr. He Lam Om,
Yeah.
for asking a question.
Yeah.
Sister Aziza, can you take a photo? Prof. Tahir can join, maybe other members.
Yeah, brother. Come.
You come here. Just
Very good. Alhamdulillah. Aziza, done?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jazakumullah.
Thanks,
Assalamu
Aziza, done?
Thank you and
Okay, thank you, thank you.
happy birthday.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Hamidullah.
Yes, sir. Thank
Prof.
you.
Hamidullah, thank you all, my dear audience, my dear participants, my dear
Yeah,
students.
honor.
We hope to see you tomorrow. We have tomorrow a program on the Sudan. I will send the invitation again. And day after tomorrow also we have a program, Malaysian time at 6 p.m. So we have tomorrow 3 p.m. and day after tomorrow 6 p.m. And I will share with you the Zoom link this afternoon, inshallah. Thank you all very much. Assalamu alaikum. And very good.
Jazakumullah. Thank you very much, sir.